Well, hello, that's me again. Today is October 6th, 2024. It is for some people, it's the end of the Sunday. For me, it's just barely morning or rather midday. So, and here I am to kind of wrap up things for this week. And some of them are pretty critical, if you ask me. But I want to immediately dispel panic, so to speak, because it's still kind of, this permeates itself around some circles, and it's absolutely totally natural. Don't make no mistake. I'm not accusing people of a little bit panicky and being a little bit panicky and misreading some signals. But as you can see yourself, Russian ambassador to the United States. It is obviously, as you can see yourself, dated today's date, but reality is Anatoly Antonov already has arrived back to Moscow because he had obviously special aircraft sent by the special detachment Russia, which is essentially the presidential detachment which serves the needs of the high-level Russian statesmen and diplomats. So he is back in Moscow, and Anatoly Antonov, well, the Russian ambassador to the United States, Anatoly Antonov, has ended his service in Washington and is on his way to Moscow. He is already in Moscow. So, and one of the things which was underscored, albeit he actually finished his term. Yeah, there's some certain term longevity, so to speak, which is ascribed or ordered for the ambassadors on the different countries, and they serve their term and then return home or to either be reappointed or something like this. But look what he talks about. Antonov previously told reporters that it had become increasingly difficult for Russian diplomats to work in the US as bilateral relations were falling apart. He said earlier this week that he and his colleagues have been subjected to the threats of physical violence. Well, that's the only way they operate in Washington. So, and again, you have to understand, and this is the key issue. Russia was warning United States on the downgrading, so to speak, relationship to a much lower level. And here is the fact which has to be paid attention to. Antonov left, and there is no information, not yet, at least, about new ambassador arriving to Washington. In other words, that means that at this stage, so far, Russian-American relations have been downgraded to the level of the consular services. And that's it. And here is the simple explanation. Well, I never heard ever that Russians would go and threaten American diplomats with physical violence. In Washington, it is normal because it is packed with people who have no honor, no integrity, and they're sore losers. And this is what they do. They are basically manifesting their, complex of inferiority, lack of class, lack of education by threatening diplomats. This is what Washington has become, or rather has been now for almost 30 years. And now when they see the situation developing on the fronts and see what has happened already to the United States, they are frustrated. As they should be, because they are ignoramuses and they got themselves into this pickle. So there we go. Now, does it mean that it is some kind of preparation for the war? No, not necessarily, but it means that Russia indicates to Washington that it literally has nobody to talk to, which is absolutely true. There is not a single person, top bottom, in Biden administration who has any ability to run things, who understand the impact of things, and who really understand Russia. So what? Who are you going to talk to? To the, compulsive liar Blinken? Or like this boy Jake Sullivan, who wouldn't know the difference between tactical and operational. You're talking about this bunch of the so-called political scientists and lawyers who have no clue. And apart from being people, where many of them are vile people, some of them are downright evil people. So, and that's the result. Russia is downgrading, essentially, unless we will hear in very near future some news that, well, Russians appointed another ambassador. But the point is, from what I know, because we are working still for our visas to Russia, we changed the passports, American passports, because we are American citizens. We need to get Russian visa. It became extremely difficult in the sense that you literally have to go physically to Washington, D.C. to apply for visa. They don't accept anymore the mail, and as used to be. And you know what? Knowing what United States is and what it has become, yeah, there is a definite possibility that they simply will send some kind of the either poisonous substance or downright, explosive device to Russian embassy. You can totally expect it with the totally mentally broken down situation in Washington, which finds itself increasingly at in the corner, period. That's what it is. And so we have the situation with Anatoly Antonov, but that doesn't indicate that necessarily some hostilities will start between Russia and the United States. And fact is, come on, I mean, hostilities in what? The only thing United States can do about Russia is to, do the nuclear strike. But then, of course, that means that United States will be wiped off the map. And that's how the only thing they have. That's the only option. Militarily, United States not only not in shape, it never was. It was always confabulated, exaggerated, embellished capabilities and history. It cannot fight the modern combined arms warfare. It certainly cannot deliver any kind of the troops over the Atlantic, because most of those deliveries will be sunk together with some very sensitive, possibly naval assets. And the United States cannot tolerate, for example, losing aircraft carrier. If it loses it, my gosh, they will accelerate to the nuclear threshold. And again, this is that's basically buttresses my constant, nagging, if you wish, writing. Second decade now, they do not know how to fight a real massive war. And more, which is real war of attrition. And as you can see yourself in the start of this video, when you have for example, all those Russian UAVs, wonderful ones, who provide immediate, what is called Rook, which is the recon strike and recon fire complex, and Russian artillery responds immediately within a minute. So if you are detected, you're dead on the modern battlefield. And the United States has no really tools, literally, air defense tools, or let alone the Air Force tools to fight this modern war. I mean, Iraq, yeah, well, Afghanistan, sure, but still. And this is the result. And so Russians consistently state, like this famous Leopold cat, I spoke about a year or so ago. You know what? Russians say, guys, let's live, let's be friends, time after time. But then eventually that's basically all over, and this lovely, calm and absolutely, pleasant Leopold cat takes this what is called aspirin, which is literally the pill which turns you into an animal. And he demonstrates for like 10 seconds to those, arrogant mice what could be done to them. And after that, things, straighten out immediately and everybody begins to live like friends. So there you go. This is the same situation, and how they can react. I mean, Biden administration is a catastrophe for the United States. This is not to say that Trump will be much better. I don't think so. But at least, he might not necessarily, allow the country completely, break apart. But who knows? I'm not the, pundit from some rag, some tabloid like New York Times sitting here, and predicting the outcomes. I'm just of the elections. I'm predicting the outcomes on the national level. And so as a result, we have this further situation. Well, so Netherlands, those powerful Netherlands, not a good football team used to be. So, but again, I'm recalling the times of Rod Rensenbrink, obviously, and Ruud Gullit, not anymore. But Netherlands delivered the first batch of F-16s to Ukraine. The Netherlands, so their defense minister Ruben Brekelmans said on the social network X following a visit to Kiev and Kharkov, "For the first time, I can officially declare that the first Dutch F-16s were delivered to Ukraine. The remaining of 24 aircraft will be delivered in the coming months," he wrote. Okay, so, and they continue to, like since the February 24, 2022. Amsterdam has supplied the Kiev regime with 60 T-72 tanks, more than 200 YPR infantry fighting vehicles of various types, about 100 Leopard 1 tanks together with Denmark and Germany, 8 Panzer H-2000 artillery pieces, 2 Patriot anti-aircraft missile system, more than 500 drones, as well as missiles, and blah, 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 blah. So, what can I say? Does, for example, Netherlands have any kind of value for Russia? No, none whatsoever. Nobody cares about those shitty, pardon my French, streets and, in Amsterdam or elsewhere. But hey, you know what? This is the combined West, and it's just hurting badly. And again, when you look at those people, I mean, they do not understand. Well, actually, many of them do, and there is actually objective evidence of that they really do. It's just the matter that they're stupid, and of course they are all cowards, because the United States will tell them jump and they will ask how high. Netherlands has no international subjectivity, just the lapdog of NATO, and yeah, it's probably going the same way as Germany, because they are, with the exception of the ISML, which is the main producer of the lithography machines, main producer, but not the only, by the way, if anybody, if anybody wonders. So yeah, I mean, they are not long for normal life, and yeah, they will be the same way. They will import all those culturally enriching people from all over the world, and then they will be done by nation. And fact is, what is happening in this respect, when you have to take a look at Mr. Trump, and when you look attentively of what is happening, Mr. Trump comes up with how to put it politely, we can't have who we and who can. And so he talks about this at one of his rallies, that the U.S. has squandered respect on the world stage, becoming a laughing stock, which is actually correct. Former President Donald Trump said in a campaign event in the swing state of Pennsylvania. The Republican nominee vowed to lift up the U.S. economy, combat violent crime, and crack down on legal immigration through the southern border. Everything has to be the best, he said. We have to have the best schools. We have to have strong borders. We don't want bad people coming in and hurting us. Well, sure. Hey, make no mistake. I am all for it. I'm all for all good and against everything bad. The problem is, it's a typical Trump who has no clue how to make the United States school best in the world. He cannot do this, believe me. Oh, you can have 100 Trumps, working on it and still not gonna help it, because he doesn't understand the issue. He just basically telling people what they want to hear. But the question is, he is absolutely correct when he says that the U.S. has squandered respect on the world stage. Let me tell you, the wave of the sympathy, the wave of support for the United States in the wake of 9/11 tragedy was overwhelming. For example, CNN wouldn't even show you, they showed it in the first couple of days because they wanted to, bask, so to speak, in this overwhelming wave of sympathy and support to the United States. A huge 100,000 people, spectators, stadium in Tehran, with it standing up and having the minute of silence for the victims of the 9/11 tragedy. You will not find this anymore, but yeah, it was there. In Russia, well, there was a famous, picture. And then one of the US senators goes there and says, when I understood that the Cold War was when the Muscovites and in other places in Russia, people were carrying the huge bouquets of flowers, and wreaths and, those notes of the love and support and, sharing grief. Not anymore there. It takes neocons to destroy basically everything good what was produced by the global community towards United States after 9/11. And guess what? In this respect, Mr. Trump is absolutely correct. United States has become the laughing stock. I am the guy who works in the fairly narrow segment of the military political analysis and, combat analysis, if you wish. And I know my limitations because obviously I don't have the access to the all of it, this whole very much classified information. But even what I observe, I wrote honestly. Look at my blog from 2014. United States is not in the same league in the combined arms operation in the on the continent. Period. It's simple as that, and we observe it. And so, if you go and look today, well, it's actually yesterday. This armed forces of Ukraine losses yesterday. As you can see yourself, yeah, as always, bunch of all kinds of things annihilated. And you have, of course, the horrendous number of the killed people. Again, above 2,300. It's pretty much, how to put it, it's very much consistent. I believe today, I didn't check the numbers of the KIAs, and wounded is lower than 2,000, but for a simple reason that actually Ugledar has been taken and very many POWs. And as Marat, our good friend Marat Khairulin shows us from yesterday, as you can see yourself, every day the line, which is the shaded line, the red shaded line, which is the line of the combat contact, is moving to the west and to the south and north. You see, Russians they already since yesterday took another few villages, and towns. And as you can see yourself, Ugledar is now in the rear of Russian troops, and they moving, just you see yourself all kinds of things happening there. They're just wiping out whatever the armed forces of Ukraine are capable to provide on the line, or the line of the contact. So we have now Selidova map. Since yesterday, as you can see yourself, also Selidova is almost surrounded. Russians are inside Selidova. So, and they will be, again, as what happened with Ugledar, trying to escape without any orders. And as you can see yourself, those essentially two main roads from Selidova, well, it's three actually. They are fully under fire control of Russian troops, really not far from them. And so, yeah, not many people will get out. Most of them will be killed, wounded, or taken prisoners. So this is the situation which is happening on the front line after the those great minds of the, NATO, especially Mr. Aguta and, Mr. Kaboli and Mr. Austin, conspired, so to speak, or planned those operations, which I already pointed out 2 days ago. Most of the tactical and operational level activities are coordinated or downright planned by the NATO people, NATO cadre officers. They are not good, and they cannot be good when you look attentively at who those armies and what they are. And again, those F-16s, as Mr. Lavrov stated, again, from Netherlands, first, they're old. They're literally falling apart in the air because they are old. Yeah, sure, they will stick couple of the, again, Storm Shadows on them, try to get to as close to Russian basically localities and launch them and then run away. They will be shut down. They either will be annihilated on the ground or will be shut down. Who is going to be flying them? Most likely some bunch of losers who watch too much of the, Maverick, Top Gun Maverick, and yeah, they believe that they can do this, So yeah, sure, absolutely. Result will be all the same, but as I already stated, the same with Antonov. I don't see any value, for example, for Russia in relations between Russia and Netherlands. To do what? I mean, this is absolutely irrelevant country in sense of Russians are beginning to produce their own lithography machines, and they are leading actually one of the top 3 countries in the quantum computing, which is coming fairly soon. So, I mean, yeah, why even maintain diplomatic relations? I see no value between Russian and German relations. The other matter that there are many Germans, decent people, make no mistake, and I'm talking about Germans, who want to go to Russia. They are going to Russia. So you have to maintain some kind of the consular support for those activities. I don't see a reason to talk to who? Talk to who in Germany? Show me the money, so to speak. Show me any kind of the person you can take seriously. And here we have now Financial Times. By the way, interview taken by this boy, Henry Foy, who, as you can see yourself, he is University of York, English Literature and Philosophy, International Baccalaureate Diploma, so yeah, all kinds of BS. He's from Financial Times, and he lies that he, 5 years ago, he actually interviewed Putin. No, Putin gave the interview to Financial Times, which is, I don't know why Vladimir Vladimirovich actually momentary lapse of reason to, even talk to this basically sewer human and professional of the British so-called media. I wonder, I don't remember, it was probably online, which is good, I mean, because otherwise being anywhere near any British journal, and most of American ones, you have to have a real serious immunization and have a very strong course of the antibiotics after that. God forbid you shake their hands, which are, I mean, they're human herpes, basically, all of them. And he lies, yeah, he took the interview with Putin. No, he didn't. But, that's British people who work for the, tabloids, and they lie. That's what they do. The only thing they can do is lie. And so he takes interview of this guy. Okay, Jens Stoltenberg, the guy is pretending. I know, listen, Stoltenberg was the prime minister of Norway. The size of Norway is the size of one of the boroughs of Moscow, okay? So, I mean, the guy essentially was running middle-sized Russian city. So that's in all his life. And so he have this hoy dude, whatever the name of this loser from Financial Times, taking interview. And of course, it is good God, it's just absolute manifestations of lying and BS, but yet even Stoltenberg makes some admissions. However, so he talks about the former NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. So far we have called Putin's bluff. Well, I have news for Stoltenberg. He is nobody. He is the Muppet. The United States and, U.S. State Department and obviously Pentagon had their hand up his behind, and he is nobody. He's literally a Muppet. He wouldn't be allowed to say anything other than what will be written to him by so-called American diplomats. So I don't know how NATO called the Russian bluff, and I don't know what bluff was, but so, as you can see yourself, and he talks about if he chokes, poor dear, it's personal about Afghanistan. Because I met so many Afghani women, members of parliament, journalists who begged us to stay. Stoltenberg begins to stumble over his words. I told them our departure from Afghanistan is conditions-based. Ours who? Again, the guy speaks for what? There would have been nobody with this pathetic loser armed forces from, let alone Norway, who would have been in Afghanistan without the 99% of the power and capability provided by the United States. So when he talks our, he is nobody. He doesn't make any decisions. He is merely press secretary. Yet here we are. We have two loser nations, one Norway, which is going to be culturally enriched to the point of disappearing, and it's in the process, and already a third world nation and its media like United Kingdom. And so they grieve. And so this hoy guy say, you broke that promise. Yes, he admits with agreements. That's the reality. Again, Stoltenberg is nobody. He was nobody, he is nobody, he always will be nobody. And so he talks about perhaps Stoltenberg's most celebrated feat as Secretary General was managing the turbulence of Donald Trump's presidency, for which he was dubbed the Trump Whisperer. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. So I don't like the word manage, he says. So yeah, I'm sure Mr. Donald Trump, with being POTUS at that time and having the narcissistic personality, which with the ego larger than cathedral, would listen to this, this boy who from Norway, who somehow have been installed as the, NATO press secretary. Well, then he talks this. And so he says that the Trump threat peaked at the Alliance 2018 summit, where the deft diplomacy avoided catastrophe with a pledge to ramp up spending. Then four allies met the NATO guidelines of spending 2% of GDP on defense. That's the good news, he says. The bad news, it's not enough. Stoltenberg, an economist, that means he doesn't have education, and statistics nerd. He is not statistics nerd. He wouldn't understand actually how to run a real economy. He was the prime minister of the country which is the size of one of the boroughs of Moscow and smaller than the St. Petersburg. So, then here we are. So he doesn't understand what statistics is, because what they teach in economic schools in the West is garbage. So, what you're saying, He was probably accountant. He would do it well on accountant. And so he talks about, knows the grim data by heart. Europe has too few weapons, capabilities, and troops at high readiness. Well, I have news for him. Europe doesn't have modern armies, period. So he says that we know that we are behind the Russians, he says. I can tell you exactly how much it will cost, but I can tell you with certainty that if allies are going to deliver on the capabilities they have promised, it will cost much more than 2%, whether it's 2.5 or 3. And does Russia know this? Yes, he says quietly, they know. Well, Russians also know that numbers which it takes from the GDP, most of the European GDP, as is most of the American GDP, are financial and all other services. They are service economy. The real drivers, economic drivers of Europe are Germany, which is being deindustrialized and dismantled as the nation, and France, with some sectors still viable, like as I already many times say, that, you know, they produce good engines like Safran and things like that. They produce, you know, the Airbus, obviously. Some now falling behind nuclear technologies, and yeah, some capabilities, some shipbuilding capabilities. Saint Nazaire. That's it. The rest of the Europe, I mean, it's just, yeah, they will be reducing their industries, and they are in the process of reducing them to the cottage industry scale, because United States needs to eat too. What? And they, yeah, the United States wants to, you know, basically shove its, well, junk weapons primarily down the throats of those people in Europe. It's like this HIMARS. Now, in Atlantic writes about that HIMARS actually effectiveness is 10%. Yeah, they admit it openly, you know, American officers in the Atlantic magazine today, and what can I say? Yeah, it is. You know what it's called? Electronic warfare. Europe is not even in the same universe in terms of the strike weapons, and, you know, in terms of mobilization of potential too. What you want? I'm not going to go into that direction about the actually capabilities in terms of the human material which they have. But yeah, this is what it is. And so you have these two guys. I mean, Jens Stoltenberg, he has evidently the criminal case open against him. I believe against him. There are all kinds of them people in NATO who have to face the persecution. It's against the war crimes in Belgium. So yeah, it's just the start of a funny life for this type of people. They will be living in fear. And that's why, you know, this UK, you know, sewer, which is Financial Times, Economist, what have you, all tabloids. People who work there, most of them have no integrity, no honor, no morality, as are primarily people in the political elites of the West, including in Washington. That's why Anatoly Antonov left, and looks like nobody's coming new, you know, to substitute him. So, and if that hasn't been enough, my gosh, it's, here it is. So we have the large New Zealand Navy ship sinks. Yeah, it sinks. Yeah, you can see it. It's all in the news. And so the surveyor vehicle, Her Majesty New Zealand, whatever ship, Manawanui, struck a reef and caught fire in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, I have some news about this, which I will explain in the conclusion of this video. And so New Zealand, of course, it's a horrendous embarrassment. And yeah, I'm not going to go in describing who ran the ship, who were the command of the ship. But guess what? The ship reportedly lost power and drifted onto a reef where it listed, caught fire and subsequently capsized. The exact cause of the grounding is unknown, and this will need further investigation. Well, you know what? If it would have been drifting, and here it is, here's naval professional speaking to you. I totally believe that it has lost power. The problem is, of course, in this cause, I'm speculating, make no mistake. Don't quote me on this. But my speculation is based on some experience. Drifting, while certainly can create a problem and can ground the ship, to catch the fire, and how it lost it first. It has to be the issue of the maintenance, but something tells me if it really sunk that much, it could have been the case of the, well, basically navigational mistake, that it was on the fairly good, basically speed, and it simply ran into this reef, coral reef, or what have you. Definitely possible. And so we need to wait and see, but it's obviously a very embarrassing loss for the New Zealand. But in some sense, it encapsulates the situation with also the American U.S. Navy oiler, which lost one of its screws, that damaged its rudder and things of this nature, which was the only oiler which was capable of the supply oil and provide other supplies for the carrier battle groups. I believe it was going to Mediterranean and suddenly, yeah. Well, is this the way? Was it done deliberately? I don't know. Don't ask me. But certainly, Washington now is a little bit in, frustration from their biggest friend, Israel. I'm being facetious, of course. Israel is nobody's friend. So, and yeah, because maybe they do not want to participate what Israel wants, to drag United States into the war with Iran, and which will be a catastrophe for the United States and all those bases around in the Middle East, because Iran will wipe them out. And what can I say? I merely speculate here. But it is very, how to put it, it is very indicative of the situation which you can observe easily if you have even 20 minutes and half brain, the IQ above room temperature, that you can observe the desperation and frustration and panic in Washington. About Europe, I'm not going to talk about Europe in terms of that they matter. They don't. But this is the big game. And Russians just removed, well, because the term is up, and he came back home already, Anatoly Antonov, and we'll see who, if anybody, will become the Russian ambassador to the United States, because as I already stated, there is nobody to talk to. Then that's the result of these people who came to power. Actually have been in power, starting from neocons. Some of them, they are mad enough and unintelligent enough that some of them want nuclear war with Russia. They're morons. You cannot expect from Western elites, modern Western elites, any serious understanding of the modern warfare, modern balance of power, and technology. They don't understand. If you want to take a look at a bunch of nincompoops which parade themselves as clowns from their board, where General Keane and other generals, look at this cabal of the neocons and those boys and girls with the political science degrees in the Institute for the Study of War. It's a laughing stock. I agree with Trump. In Russia, they are paraded. People just do it for shits and giggles. Basically post their forecasts and reports, and people laugh. I mean it, laugh literally, hysterically. So what do you expect? So this is what I wanted to tell you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. So have the nice rest of the weekend for you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.